Car Magazine recently drove the BMW Z4 at Miramis in the south of France. Hi, I'm Eric, and this is RevMatchTV, and if you don't already know, the BMW Z4 and the Toyota Supra are actually based on the same chassis. They also share the same engine and transmission, so the BMW is using an inline 6, making probably about 335 horsepower and 369 pounds-feet of torque. Tata, the designer of the Supra, has confirmed that the transmission is going to be a DCT. Now, currently, Toyota doesn't make a DCT as far as I know for a passenger car, and they don't make an inline 6 turbo. So it's a pretty good bet that the Supra is going to be using the exact same engine and transmission and probably even the rear differential out of the BMW Z4. Car Magazine is also reporting that the BMW is going to go into production in the last quarter of this year, which is 2018, and be available for sale around March of 2019. It's going to be produced in Graz, Austria by Magna Steyr. I'm sure I got the pronunciation wrong. Flame me in the comments. So that does beg the question, is the Supra going to be produced on the same assembly line in Austria, and just how Japanese does that really make the Supra? I was looking at the Mark V forum for the Supra, and there's an unconfirmed post that the starting price of the Supra is going to be $63,500 US. Here's my question to you, and you can answer either on Instagram or on Twitter. Is $64,000 for the Supra with only 335 horsepower worth it? Would you buy the car? There's other cars that are really much more competitive, like the Camaro Z28, the Mustang GT, and of course, even the Corvette. Car Magazine recently had a chance to drive the Z4 prototype in the south of France, and they compared it to the BMW M2 and the M240i. We know that the car shares, of course, the same chassis and engine and transmission, but I would expect the suspension tuning to be quite different from car to car, and we already know, of course, that the Z4 is a convertible and that the Supra is a coupe. Just to quickly sum up, Car Magazine seemed really impressed with the Z4 handling. They said that it actually had greater capabilities than the BMW M2. That's a pretty amazing statement. I've driven the M2 and I have a 1M, and these are both highly capable sports cars. If other journalists and reviewers echo the sentiments of Car Magazine and say that the Z4 is more capable than the M2, that is a really impressive chassis to build upon, and I'm totally confident that Toyota is going to be able to build something that handles equally as well, if not better than the car, than the Z4, because it's got a little bit less weight. The Z4 is supposed to come in at 1,535 kilos, or about 3,400 pounds. I would expect that the Supra, unconfirmed still, is going to come in at maybe 3,300 pounds because you just don't have the mechanism for the hardtop and all the additional reinforcements that you need to make the body stiffer. Car Magazine is reporting that the Z4 they drove had active dampers and of course the electric suspension, but they're saying what is really interesting about it is that the suspension works in harmony with the steering, so that on turn-in, something happens with the suspension to make it feel more responsive. They tried different modes all the way up to sport mode, and their review was really impressive. So they also said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the BMW steering actually is good and has feedback. One of my big criticisms of modern BMWs is their electric steering system. I just think it lacks any kind of real feedback. Sure, it weights up, but you really don't feel a lot of what's going on in the steering wheel, unlike the old hydraulic racks. If what Car Magazine is saying is true about the Z4, I would expect that the Supra is going to have a little bit more aggressive suspension tuning, and it makes it something I would actually consider as my new daily driver. At $64,000, it's pretty expensive, but I would still consider it as a daily driver because I love handling. I place a real premium on that, but the thing that gives me the biggest amount of pause is the amount of power is just not a whole lot for this class of car. I recently drove a Mustang GT with 460 horsepower. The Camaro SS 1LE has a similar level of horsepower and also excellent handling. It just weighs a bunch more, but those are two cars that I'm strongly considering as my next daily driver. Let me know in the comments below what you're considering as your next daily driver, and if you want to subscribe, just follow that guy, hit me up on Instagram, and I will see you in the next video.